everyone, welcome back to Subconscious Medicine. How's everyone doing? I'm currently having the coziest day ever. Tampa or Florida, southern Florida is currently being hit with a hurricane and it's quickly making its way up to Tampa. So it's been raining a lot this weekend, but it's kind of an excuse to slow down. So I appreciate that. Today's Sunday when I'm filming this, and on Saturday I volunteered at the same place that I completed my internship this summer. They have a end of summer event. It's called the Back to School Bash for the kids, and they have a bunch of local vendors come in with free food and free ice cream, free eye exams for the kids, just all that sorts of stuff. And then I packaged up a little backpack with school supplies for every single child there, which is a lot more time consuming than you might think. And we distributed those yesterday. So it was a great day. It came to a very quick end. We were supposed to stay running until 2, but at 1 the rain started and we had to pack it up. So we were all literally running around in the pouring rain trying to get everything inside, and kids were running around, and it was a hot mess, but it was so much fun. So I'm officially done with my internship, and yeah, I'm excited to take a few weeks off before the school year starts and hopefully relax a little bit. I was just talking about this with a close friend, but I find it so hard to let myself relax and let myself settle down a little bit. I'm very go 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 and I want to be productive, but I think that it's important to take time for ourselves sometimes and just try to relax to the best of our abilities and appreciate the downtime. And that's something I'm definitely working on. I'm not very good at it, but I'm appreciating today. The downpouring rain all day is a good excuse to sleep in. Well, I say sleep in. I tried to sleep in today, which, if you know me, is not my thing. I like to wake up early in the morning. I've never closed the blinds in my apartment because I like to wake up to the sun. Most of the time I don't need to set an alarm. I just kind of roll out of bed at 6:15. So today I was like, okay, I'm not going to set an alarm. I'm going to try to relax. And I woke up at 8:30. So not much in comparison to normal, I guess it was sleeping in. But anyways, trying to make the most out of my relaxing day regardless. Not that there's much to do anyways when it's downpouring rain. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. I have a close friend visiting me tomorrow, so I'm really excited. She's gonna stay here for a few days, and then she leaves, and a day or two later my mom comes to visit me for the weekend. So that's really exciting. Haven't seen my mom in a little bit, so definitely excited to catch up with her, have some girl time. I made an itinerary for us, and yeah, really excited about that. She also just loves coming to Florida, so I try to make the most of it while she's here and, cater our itinerary to the things that she likes most. So we're going to hit up some coffee shops. She wants to go to the beach, and yeah, a few other things, but excited to have her visit. What else is going on in my life? I'm trying to think. Honestly, not much. It's been a pretty chill day. Nothing too exciting. But yeah, here we are. And for today's episode, I wanted to do something that I think is really funny. Maybe other people won't think it's as funny as I do, but I was thinking about high school the other day, just reflecting a little bit and thinking about how high school went by so fast and it feels like so long ago, but also it feels like yesterday and blah, 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 whatever. And it got me thinking about our high school superlatives. I don't know if every high school has these. I kind of feel like this is old school, but our high school, or the high school I graduated from, still does these. And I can't remember if they're at the front of our yearbook or the end of our yearbook, and of course I don't have it with me to look, but there's just like a list of superlative, and it's like most likely to do this or best at this. And at least at our school, they picked two names. There was one boy, one girl for every like winner for every superlative. And some of them were cute, like most likely to be successful or most likely to like save the world or like stuff like that. But then some of them were just funny, um, like biggest class clown or whatever. And people like our student body, or rather, no, it wasn't the whole student body. It was just a senior class would vote for who would win each one. And I didn't win any. Most people don't. I want to say there's only like 15 maybe, but I think they're just funny, and it got me thinking about what superlatives I would win or like I would might be nominated for. So I actually reached out to a handful of people to ask them, and then some of these I just picked on my own. But it was funny reaching out to my sister and my friends and other people because a lot of them said the same one, which I thought was really funny. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Some of these are like accurate and then some of them are just silly, but I compiled a list of 10 superlatives that I think I would win or at least be in the running for, and I thought maybe we could chit chat about them. It was kind of like a chill episode. So, okay. Number 1 is, and this isn't in any particular order either, but number 1, most gullible. I don't care if you're like a roach, I'll believe you. Like if someone can, to me it's like facial expressions. So if someone can like keep a straight face, I will believe them. There's nothing stopping me from thinking that you're saying the truth. And it doesn't matter if I know that like you've lied to me before, you've lied to other people before. I absolutely believe everything that I hear. And I wonder if this has me thinking actually now that I work with kids. I wonder if that will change. Like, if I'm around kids all the time who obviously are very gullible, maybe if I'm the one saying the lies or like the white lies, maybe in the future this will go away. I don't know if it's like a testament to my innocence, but I'm so gullible. And it's not even always about bad things. Like, I also feel like I'm gullible in social situations, like when I'm meeting new people. And you know how people don't necessarily lie when you meet them for the first time, but they like upplay their personality a little bit. So, like, I know for me, for example, I'm a very introverted person, but if I'm meeting someone for the first time, I'm not introverted because I want them to get to know who I am. So I'm like me times 10 usually. So I'm not lying. I'm just like dramatizing. What's the word? Dramatizing? Dramatizing. Um, oh, if that's not right, that's gonna be embarrassing, but whatever. My personality, right? Like it's on a high. And um even then, like when I know other people in social situations or I'm meeting someone for the first time and I know other people are doing the same, I can still be so gullible. And it's crazy. And this is something I feel like I can name a few people in my life that always make fun of me for it. Um, my dad always makes fun of me for this, and my boyfriend, but I don't know what it is. I just feel like I'm the most gullible person. I just believe everything. Maybe I don't put enough thought into like this stuff people tell me. I don't know. I believe it all. And it's honestly kind of scary. Cuz but you know what? No. Let's reframe this in our minds. Being gullible isn't always a bad thing. And like I said, it's a testament to my innocence, for better or for worse, and I think it shows that I'm a trustworthy person and I believe people until they kind of like give me a reason not to. So we're reframing that. Not always a bad thing. Um, but yeah, I am a really gullible person, and sometimes it makes me look a little dumb, but I'd rather that than not trust anything people say because that seems like a more dangerous path. Okay. Number two, biggest people pleaser. This is an obvious one, and I feel like you don't even have to know me very well to know that I'm a big people pleaser. But this is something else that I've been working on a lot recently. I actually just posted something on the Subconscious Medicine Instagram, little shout out, about kind of about being a people pleaser, um, and sort of like my head noise. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that word before. Um, so I've listened to a podcast, and the podcast is called Unsolicited Advice. Strongly encourage you to listen to it. I think it's really interesting. There's two hosts, they're two best friends. One of them is Ashley Nicole. She's a YouTuber, she's pretty popular. She's Alicia Marie's sister. Alicia Marie's a little bit of a bigger YouTuber, so I feel like some people know her instead. But anyways, Ashley Nicole, and then the other host is a woman named Taryn Renee, and they're two best friends like in real life. And the podcast is just kind of like them chit chatting, but basically, listeners write in and they respond and they like offer their own advice. And it's kind of funny because it is very solicited, like people are writing in for their advice. So it's definitely not unsolicited, but I think the name is kind of like a fun play on words. But okay, so Taryn is granted, like, I don't know these people personally, but she gives off the persona that she is very much not a people pleaser. Like, she's a very strong willed, confident woman, and she just like kind of she's the type of person who walks into a room and just like asserts dominance and asserts respect. And I think that's incredible and amazing. Very much not me. Ashley gives the opposite vibe. I don't know if that's true, but I feel like me and Ashley are very similar people, and we conduct ourselves very similarly, especially in social situations. At least how she describes herself in those situations sounds like me. And so I find their dynamic to be really fascinating and relatable to me and some of my other friends that I think are more like Taryn. Um, but regardless, the Instagram post that I was talking about, I mentioned them because Taryn mentioned um, head noise. She's the person I heard that term from, and so I've done a little research about what that means and what that looks like. And basically, it's just referring to people who are experiencing a lot of anxiety, any type of anxiety, but um, or in an undiagnosed sense, it could just be someone under a lot of like social pressure or stress experiences something called head noise. And it's essentially just the inner dialogue of a person who is particularly anxious. So if you have anxiety, you can probably relate to sort of like ongoing inner dialogue or ongoing running thoughts in your head that never really seem to like silence themselves. And that's what head noise is referring to. And so the sort of goal is not to silence our head noise, but rather to make it productive, um, and redirect those thoughts to be uplifting ones instead of um, depriving ones, or um, or like involving any type of negative self talk. We want to redirect those to be positive and productive thoughts. It and so in my post, it was like sort of titled "Who Am I Without My Thoughts?" And the goal is again to encourage us to avoid repressing those thoughts. I'm someone who tends to beat myself up for my anxious thinking. And I, for a long time, have seen it as a weakness and something that sort of interferes with my cognitive processes, especially in like a social situation that demands a lot of attention. But something I'm working on is, instead of trying to silence those voices, is accepting my anxious thoughts, right? If you're someone who's been diagnosed with anxiety, you know that it's not going anywhere. Like, hate to break it to you, but the goal of having any type of mental health issue or mental illness is not to quote heal it. Like, mental health interventions and psychological interventions are not following the same progression that the medical field has. Our goal is not to heal or cure, our goal is to learn, grow, and again, maintain productivity in the world while understanding that our mind is wired a bit differently from what's quote normal or what's maybe expected. And so again, I think that anyone can have like head noise. I don't think it's unique to people who have anxiety. It's just more prominent in those people, but the point again being that I think it's really important that people who are experiencing those types of anxious thoughts and recognizing that they're detrimental to their everyday functioning, that they really work to accept that inner dialogue and make it productive, and redirect it in a positive way that can enhance who they are as a human being, instead of sort of limiting their personality in any way. And so I say all this to say that part of my people pleasing energy is happening in the form of that inner dialogue. So, for instance, when I'm in a social situation and my goal is to please those around me, the cognitions that are happening internally are ways in which I could please that person and sort of like an internal debate of which option is best. And so, while most people would, or rather, people who aren't experiencing head noise are thinking, okay, this is a social situation that I'm in, and this is what I think is the best option, and so we're going to do this. Instead of that being my cognitive process involves about 8 different pathways of this is an option, this is why it's the best option, and now you need to pick and you need to debate like internally what's happening. And keep in mind, all this is happening in seconds, right? So, like, when you're in a social situation and someone asks you a question or an situation like unravels right in front of you, you don't have time to react. And this is something that became particularly noticeable in working with kids because they demand your attention very quickly, oftentimes. And so, you're right, trying to pour energy into silencing that type of noise seems to be a waste. It's not going to go anywhere. You know, you don't lose an anxiety diagnosis. That's not how this works. You simply learn how to deal with it. Learn how to continue to be a productive member in a society and how to continue to achieve goals and achieve dreams. But our goal is not to um, avoid anxiety, so to speak. People who try to avoid anxious situations tend to be the same people that isolate themselves from friend groups, from partners, from family, whatever, because they understand that putting themselves in situations with those people might produce some type of anxiety. And so instead of facing it head on, they fear it and they isolate. And that's not something that's not an example of being a productive member of society. It's understandable why that's an option and why a lot of people choose that, but that's not there's no longevity in that option, right? You can't consistently isolate yourself from one another. And there has to come a time where we learn to accept those anxious thoughts, redirect them, and reintroduce ourselves into those social situations so that we can practice um, that productive thought redirection. And so, all of this to say that being a people pleaser, I don't necessarily think is an entirely negative thing. Certainly, if it's coming at the expense of your own goals or your own interests, then yes, definitely that's not ideal or fair to yourself. But I don't think that being a person who has a heart and who is compassionate and who cares about other people's opinions and values them and values what they have to say and giving them a voice, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. In fact, I would rather be the type of person who has that kind of heart and who's willing to be vulnerable in those types of situations with other people than be the person who's so strong-willed that they can't accept other people's perceptions of them. I think the way that other people describe you says a lot about yourself. Um, there's a reason. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but in almost every interview I've ever done, which has been a lot, like job interviews or like school projects, like whatever, I feel like I've done a lot of interviews, and a common question I've gotten is, how would your best friend describe you? Or how would your parents describe you? People that are close to you, right? And I confidently say that they would describe me as a people pleaser, and I don't say that with hesitance, because again, I don't think that's a negative thing. I think that says a lot about my character. And again, I want to reiterate that there is a um, there's a scale to this, and there are certainly ends of the scale that can be maladaptive. But I think that in large part, making decisions that incorporate how other people are going to be affected by those decisions is an important skill, and I think that that's something that people pleasers do well. Um, and so I think I fluctuated along that scale. I think at times or in certain situations, I'm more of a people pleaser than in others. And again, there have been times where I think it's been maladaptive, but for the most part, I do think that it's helped me a lot. It makes me a dynamic and creative thinker, and I'm appreciative of that. I'm thinking about my internship. It's just sort of fresh in my mind, and working with a population that I don't belong to, right? So I'm working at, or I was working at, a low income housing community and nonprofit for children and families affected by foster care. And so I'm working with people that are very different from me, that have very different experiences from me. And so there's a relatability barrier between me as a staff member and them as community member, right? So it for the case for most families that are living there, there's a racial identity barrier. There's oftentimes a language barrier. There's a generation barrier too. A lot of them are considerably older and or younger than me. Their kids much younger, most of them, and the adults much older. And there's a lot that makes us different from one another, and being having a sort of people pleaser attitude meant that I was able to open my heart to hear other people's voices and take those into consideration when I made decisions for the community or for our kids, right? So if I were to simply go about my day-to-day tasks and make decisions at my job with the the breadth of knowledge only being from my own experiences, then I'm confident that I would underserve that community. But by hearing what people have to say, by allowing people to express their own needs instead of me guessing what it is that they need, I'm able to cater towards their needs in a much more seamless manner than if I were to solely use my own experiences. So, and this is just one example. I find myself having that people pleasing attitude in a lot of different situations, and then in others, not so much. I've certainly asked for feedback on this podcast from close friends too, and any like constructive criticism or negative feedback I hear, and I appreciate it, and I definitely consider it, and some of it I've put into action. But there's also some things about this podcast that I'm not willing to be quote people pleasing about. There's some things that to me are part of the message that other people may not see, and that's okay. That just means it's not for them. um but for instance, like me filming in my bed in a sweatshirt every episode, I don't know if you've noticed that, but like that is part of the message or the community that I want to cultivate. I want this to be a comfortable, safe space, and somewhere that I feel comfortable and safe is in my bedroom. It's the one place that I own that I can call mine, and that's comfortable. And there's something about this room that allows me to be vulnerable. And if I were to, let's say, rent a podcast studio, something that most people do, not only is that a financial burden that I'm not really willing to assume, but it's also putting me in an unfamiliar space, and I fear that that type of environment will restrict my willingness to share and open up, which is the whole point of having the podcast in the first place. And so I'm deliberately making these decisions based off of the space, the internet space that I want to create, because it's mine and it doesn't belong to anyone else. And if they don't like it, that's okay. I'd rather them recognize that and find a place that they do like, that they do feel comfortable in, than try to force themselves into a box that's sort of my space. So again, I think we can be people pleasers in different settings, and I don't always think it's a bad thing. I think that there's a way to be a people pleaser without silencing your own opinions and your own values, and that's sort of the line that I'm trying to straddle right now, and a skill that I'm trying to develop. But I do want to shout out Unsolicited Advice again, and specifically Taryn. She actually has a background in psychology. I'm not sure what her job is. She's a pretty private person like myself, and so she doesn't share too much about her personal life on the podcast, or at least not about her professional life. So I'm not positive, but I know she's worked with children before, and I believe her degree is in psychology. So, yeah, I think she has a wealth of knowledge to share, but I really resonated with that term head noise. And, I appreciated hearing that. And I think it's something that maybe can help some other anxious girls or guys or gays or anyone, but help some anxious people sort of better understand what it is that's happening in their head. Um, but yeah, biggest people pleaser, definitely think I could be nominated for that. Okay, number 3 is most independent, which off the bat seems like a positive thing. Definitely don't always think it is. I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, I consider myself a pretty um, physically and emotionally independent person. I do want to be hesitant to say that financially I am blessed that my parents assume a lot of my financial burden to this day, and for that I'm grateful. I try to be as financially independent as I can be and pay for what it is that I can, but there's a lot that I can't, and my parents willingly accept that, and they support me in that way along with many other ways. But I do think it's important to be transparent about that. But in terms of everyday life, I do consider myself to be a really independent person. I mean, in large part, I think it takes a certain amount of independence to be willing to move 1,400 miles away from home and be in a state with no prior friends, no family, no real resources at the time that I moved. And yeah, I think that in and of itself takes a lot of independence. Not to take anything away from students who don't move away for college, that's fine too. But I think it calls for the right type of person to be able to do that. Um, Emotionally, I think I'm a very independent person too. I don't think I call on my friends for much. In fact, there are times where I probably should reach out to friends that I don't. And that sort of gets me into the negative aspects of my personal independence. I'm definitely speaking for myself here, but there are definitely times where my eagerness to be independent has negatively impacted my life. I As I mentioned, I crave a type of independence. I sort of have this like can-do attitude, which again can be positive in a lot of ways, but in others it means that I fear asking for help, and I resist asking for help from people even when I know they're capable of helping me, because I don't like to admit that to myself. I don't like to admit that I need help. To me, for some reason, and I would never say this about someone else, so I'm not sure why I'm so willing to say it about myself, but for some reason to me that feels like a failure. And one thing about me is I don't like to fail. So I'm working on being independent without rejecting resources and rejecting help, because that that just feels stupid. Looking at it in retrospect, there are so many things in my life that I've done that I've gotten around to figuring it out, but I'm like, had I just asked someone for help, this could have been done so much sooner, or in a much more like productive manner, and it wasn't, because I wasn't willing to ask someone for a little bit of assistance or ask someone to just guide me along the way. I was too focused on doing it on my own. And I think that in and of itself is a little bit of selfishness. It's particularly, I'm thinking like in a work setting or in a school, professional or educational setting, that could potentially hurt people in your class, or people, coworkers, or whomever, if you're so focused on being able to do it on your own that maybe it takes longer, or it's not done right, or whatever. It could create more work for other people in the long run. So although I don't consider myself necessarily a selfish person, I do think that in that way I am not being selfless at the very least. And I think I could do myself and the people around me more justice if I was willing to be a little bit more dependent. This is something I've talked about a lot, but this this world relies on dependence. There's no one in this world that can do it all on their own. I was trying to explain this to a friend a while back, but quite literally nothing in this world could function without relying on other people, right? You go to the grocery store, and in a way, you rely on the grocery store to supply you food every week so that you can eat, because that's a need that you have, right? So already you're depending on the grocery store. The grocery store depends on their products, right? And where do their products come from? Well, their products come from industrial factories and farms. And who do those people rely on? Well, farms rely on their cattle, or they rely on their crops, or you know what I mean? So like there's simply no industry in this world that would be able to exist without dependence on another industry. We are a network of systems that have to work together in order for products to be made, in order for society to function. And in fact, when things bad things happen, or when needs aren't met, it is because someone in that chain failed at their job, right? So our world relies on an underlying sense of dependency, one that is not only acceptable for human functioning, but necessary. But on an individual basis, our goal, especially like at my age, I feel like in that those college years, everyone just throws around this need to be independent. And though I think it's important that we, accept at that like late adolescent, early adulthood age that you need to stray away from your parents, and you need to learn financial literacy and, you know, a certain level of independence, I also think it could be dangerous to push people beyond that and encourage them to reject help from others in a world that relies on dependency. So, again, much like being a people pleaser is, I see it as a spectrum. I see dependency or independence, for that matter, also along a spectrum. And I think that the healthiest option is to fall somewhere in the middle of that, to be willing to be vulnerable and accept help from others when you need it, and be dependent in that way, but also demonstrate a relatively consistent level of independency in day-to-day life. And that is another thing that I'm learning slowly. I think that's a normal progression into adulthood is being thrown to an extreme end of independency, and I'm hesitant to encourage others to do the same because I've seen how it could be detrimental to myself, and I think that we need to do a better job at instead of pushing independency is delegating what it is that we need from others. Choosing the type of situations that require our dependency on others, and then in the same way, choosing the ones that we can do on our own, and we don't need help from others. And that sort of distinction is going to look different for everybody. What it is that you're capable of is going to look different from the next person, but that's a tough lesson to learn, but I really do think it's a necessary one, and it can help us to be more accepting of others' needs, I think. So I think I would be nominated for most independent, especially in the last few years when I sort of rejected help. But this is a superlative that I kind of want to lose. Not that I want to lose my independence, but I do want to shift a little bit on the scale towards a middle line. I don't want to be so extreme about it, and that's something that I'm working on, and I encourage the people that I'm around to try to remind me of, because sometimes I need those reminders. Okay, on to a silly one. Biggest minimalist. Yeah, pretty much minimalist in all aspects of my life. I have been working to create a capsule wardrobe. If you guys don't know what that is, it's basically this. I don't honestly haven't done like enough research. I need to educate myself more before I talk on this, but it's this like philosophy that you only have a certain number of items, and they're neutral colors, and they're basic like cuts and styles, so that even though you only have so many items, you can pair them together. I don't know if there's like a definitive number, but like it's probably around like 50, 70 pieces of clothing maybe. And again, the idea is just like, okay, everyone needs a little black dress. Everyone needs, I'm looking at my closet as I do this. Everyone needs one pair of non-ripped jeans and one pair of ripped jeans. And so like stuff like that, I've been working to shape my closet in that way. It also talks a lot too, though, about investment pieces and paying a little bit more for something that you know is going to last you a long time, and you know fits you well, and you feel confident in, instead of purchasing cheap fast fashion. And yeah, anyways, that's something that I'm working on building, but I think it's a great example of how I can be a minimalist. Also, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but this room is pretty bare. My pillows are white, my bedspread is white. I have one blanket on my bed, it's also white. My sheets are white. The walls are white. They're the only decorations in this room are one photo frame of a picture of me and my mom. There's one tiny little tray of seashells. My parents, every time they come visit me in Florida, they go to the beach and they pick out a handful of seashells and they add it to the tray. And a candle. Those are the only decorations. There's not a single thing on the walls. There's not a rug, nothing. So, yeah, I'm definitely a minimalist. I find interior design to be a really cool thing. I used to be really into it, actually. I used to like redo my room like every year. My mom would kill me, and I love looking through other people's homes. That's actually a great pastime for me. But in my own bedroom specifically, the rest of the apartment honestly isn't really like this, but in my own bedroom specifically, I need bare bones. When I have a lot of trouble sleeping, and so if I lay down in bed and I see things on the wall, or any other type of decoration, it serves as a real distraction, and that creates a lot of head noise. Wow, full circle moment. But it makes me anxious, and I've learned to accept that about myself, and realize that that means my room looks quote boring to a lot of people, and that's okay. It's what I need to create my safe space. So here we are. But yeah, I'm a big minimalist, and stuff and like knickknacks just makes me so stressed. I hate it. It feels like a waste of money, a waste of space. honestly, to me, it's like an eyesore most of the time. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just a big minimalist. I also, when I go grocery shopping, I love grocery shopping so much, which I know is weird. Like most people hate it and dread it. I love going to the grocery store every week. It like makes my day, but or makes my week. But when I go to the grocery store, even then, I'm a minimalist. And then half the time I'll get home and I'll be like, I really needed this, but I didn't get it because I said I didn't need it. And here we are. And like now I'm hungry. So, anyways, yeah, definitely a minimalist. It's actually something I really like about myself, which there isn't a ton. We're working on it. But I do like that I'm a minimalist. I think it helps me save money. I think it creates less stress in my life. And yeah, I don't mind it at all. Actually, I kind of like it. And I encourage other people to not necessarily accept a minimalistic lifestyle, but at least think about their overconsumption. This is something I've sort of gotten into recently. Um, I I watch a lot of YouTube, listen to a lot of podcasts, and most of which are, really popular people. Though I try to find like smaller creators, I do tend, to naturally gravitate towards people who already sort of have like a bigger following. And I have picked up recently how many like over consumers I watch, and it is absurd. These like influencers, TikTokers, whatever, get so much PR, and I understand that that's part of the job. I get it. But on top of that, they're also purchasing so much. And I just think to myself, like, there's no way that you use all of these products. I just know there's no way. And I will say a lot of them are transparent and they say, I give them to siblings or my mom or my friends or whomever, and that's great. I think, or they donate them. I can think of a few people that I watch in specific that I know donate a lot to like women's shelters and stuff, and I think that's amazing. But it doesn't it doesn't negate the fact that they're still over consuming so much. And I just not only are there horrible environmental reasons, but I think overconsumption can be a really, really detrimental practice, and so I encourage people to be a little bit more thoughtful, especially people who have wealth and have the means to support um better sourced companies, and I see them still purchasing from like these cheapo places that are known to have really bad labor laws and like practices, and I don't know. I think like this is your hard-earned money. Be a little bit more intentional about the way you spend it maybe, but I also want to be careful. Like I'm not trying to be a pocket watcher. I'm just saying I think overconsumption can, especially like on a macro level, like when a lot of people are doing it, I think can be really detrimental. So I just encourage people to be a little bit more intentional about their purchases. Again, it doesn't mean you have to be a minimalist. It just means there's balance, and maybe we can find that. This seems to be a running theme, is that there's balance, but I guess being or winning a superlative means you're not balanced. You're very much of one thing. Um, okay. Kind of tagging along to how I'm the most independent, I guess, is that I think I would also be nominated, at least by like close people by me, for most dependable. Um, if I say I'm doing something, I'm doing it. I'm someone who lives and dies by their to-do list. And so if it's on there, it is getting done. I can promise you that. And if there's a due date, it will get done by that due date. I am a very structured person. There's an extensive to do list every single day. I have one today. Recording a podcast is on it. It's getting done. Doesn't matter that it's in the middle of a hurricane and you guys can probably hear the rain. It's got to get done. Um, and so, yeah, I think I'm a pretty dependable person. I think that I appreciate when people ask things of me, which is also why I want to be better at asking them for things as well. But I appreciate it. To me, it's a compliment to my ability to perform in a certain way. So, when my boss asks me to do something, it doesn't just mean there's a task that she doesn't want to do. It also means that she thinks I'm competent of completing that task. And so I try to accept those things as a compliment because I do think that they are one. And so that just means that when someone asks something of me, I can confidently say that it will get done. For that, I think I'm a pretty dependable person. I also think I try to surround myself with people who are similar. I do think that's hard. I don't think that there's a lot of college aged 20-year-olds that are dependable. I have to be honest. Don't think there's a lot. Most of my friends, I'd say, aren't very dependable. But I don't think that's a reason to not be friends with someone. I just think it can create a little strife in the relationship at times, but again, I don't think it's abnormal for 20-year-olds to not be dependable, but I do think that's something that again I appreciate about myself. This is good practice. Now that I'm saying that this out loud, give yourself a list of superlatives you would win because I think it's a good way to give yourself compliments. As I mentioned a few episodes back, I'm working on accepting compliments, and in part, I think what what goes hand in hand with that is giving myself compliments and accepting things that I'm good at. Something I'm very much not good at is recognizing my own strengths. And so I think this is actually a really unique way to do that. So if you're struggling at all on your own confidence journey, I encourage you, even if it's just like one a day and you just say it to yourself in front of the mirror or whatever the case may be, or you crowdsource like I did and ask some friends or like your mom or whomever to like submit what they think would be your superlative. I think this is actually a great way to just like create a little bit more positive dialogue in your own self-reflection and like self-image. So yeah, but I do think I'm a pretty dependable person. Okay, on to a silly one. Most likely to pull an all-nighter. Absolutely, especially if you ask me in high school. In high school, I used to literally pull like 2 all-nighters a week just for fun. I didn't have I wasn't up doing homework or studying or anything. I would just do it for fun, and it was absolutely absurd. In fact, I I had a math class senior year. It was statistics with my best friend Brooke, and we had a teacher, Mr. Barry. He was actually the best. Loved him so much. He's like this middle-aged dad with 3 kids, and he was just like such dad energy, but he was the best teacher ever, and he really did care about his students. And he used to lock me in his classroom at the end of the day. Because we had his class last period, and he used to lock me in his classroom. Like everyone would leave, go get in their car, drive home, and I'd be like the last one to leave, and he'd close the door in my face, and he would like yell at me that I needed to sleep, and he's like, I'm not gonna let you like take our test if you don't come in tomorrow. Like if I see bags under your eyes, but like he was funny about it, but he really did care, and it was actually super sweet, and I did appreciate it. But yeah, looking back, I have no idea how I did that. I still to this day am someone who just like doesn't need a lot of sleep to function. I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's my mom. Like I don't know if that's hereditary, probably not. But like my mom's the same way. Probably because she worked nights for so long, but she just like doesn't need a lot of sleep and she's still so productive every day, which I love about her and have always appreciated about her. But yeah, I don't know. I just used to pull all-nighters all the time. And now I definitely don't pull all-nighters, but I still like get close and I like just don't need a lot of sleep. As I said, I'm an early riser, but that doesn't mean I'm early to go to bed at all. In fact, I'm definitely not. But yeah, I'm just like someone who can function without a lot of sleep. And since I know that about myself, it just like perpetuates the cycle and means that every night I'm like, oh, it'll be fine, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't sleep a lot. And then when I do sleep a lot, it means I feel guilty about it, which is not good at all. But yeah, I just don't know what it is, but I like don't find it hard to pull an all-nighter. I don't find it a challenge. But I know so many people in my life who like need their sleep. Like Brooke, for example, she like needs her like 8 hours of sleep. Or especially on like a test day, she's for sure sleeping. But yeah, some people are just like I don't know what it is. But definitely I'm most likely to pull an all-nighter, which also doesn't help that I can never nap. Like I just during the day I cannot sleep. I lay down and I get so anxious. It doesn't matter if I have like blackout curtains, whatever, it doesn't matter. it stresses me out so much that my body knows like it shouldn't be asleep at that time, and so I can't sleep. But props to the people who can take a nap because that's awesome. I remember my sister telling me, she was like, that's going to change when you're a mom. And I was like, yeah, probably, because she has a little baby. And I was like, yeah, probably. But for now, can't nap. Never been able to nap, not like all my life. My mom actually used to know when I was sick when I was little because I would take a nap and I never can unless I'm sick. And so, like, that's how she used to decide if I could stay home from school the next day because I'd always like try to get out of going to school, and she'd be like, "Ellie, you're going to school." And then if she saw me nap, she'd be like, "Oh, you really aren't feeling well. Like you can stay home." um, but yeah, definitely most likely to pull an all-nighter. Okay, speaking of my mom, next one, biggest mom. I feel like in every friendship that I've been in or friend group, which I say lightly because I feel like I haven't ever really been in a true friend group. I guess maybe like in high school with my softball friends, maybe, but I am such a mom friend. Like such a mom friend. I don't know why I'm like that, but I just am. Um yeah, I'm like the person that's like text me when you get home, drive safe, or I'll like bring snacks for my friend. I don't know. I'm just like I'm such a mom friend, and my mom is such a mom. Like I don't know. To me, she is like the perfect mom, obviously, because I love her. She's my mom, but um, yeah, I feel like I'm so much like her in that way. I feel like I just look out for people in a way that oftentimes is probably too much, but I don't even care. But I truly think I'm like the epitome of a mom. Like you need medicine, got you. You need I don't know what, but like I've got you covered. We're gonna figure it out. But yeah, I'm definitely just like the mom of the friend group. Which again, I feel like I used to like hate about myself, and now I kind of don't. I'm like I'd rather be prepared than not. So call me the mom. I don't care. Definitely not like the fun girl, not life the party, but I am the mom. Um. Okay. Number 8, most sarcastic. I feel like that probably doesn't come across on here because I'm like talking to myself in essence. I mean, I guess I'm talking to like you guys, but while I'm filming it, I see my phone screen and my computer screen and outside and like my room, but like I'm not looking at real human beings. So my sarcasm probably doesn't come out as much because I'm not interacting with someone, but I'm a very sarcastic person and I think my friends know that about me, so it's fine, but I do think, like, sometimes I'm sarcastic people and they don't pick up on it, and if you're sarcastic, you know that that's, like, the most awkward thing ever, but, yeah, I feel like I'm a pretty sarcastic person. I'm also, like, a very much dark humor type of person because I don't like to be vulnerable and show emotions in front of people, so I just rely on humor. So, that definitely plays into my sarcasm too, but yeah, I would say I'm a pretty sarcastic person. Not I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a great quality either. I think there's time and place to be sarcastic, but yeah, I definitely am, especially with like certain relationships I can think of. I'm very sarcastic. um but yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's whatever. It's like part of who I am, and I think a large part of my personality and my own humor is being sarcastic. So, yeah. Okay. Number 9, most likely to say yes. This I guess plays into being a people pleaser, but I say yes to everything. As in like if someone asks me for help, I'm saying yes. And this again is something that sounds like a good thing, and most of the time. I think it is. But it also gets me into trouble sometimes because I say yes to things that I can't handle or that aren't my responsibility or that maybe I can do, but like maybe I have to make sacrifices to be able to get done in time or do well or whatever the case may be. I've noticed this particularly in like education, um like in my undergrad in like group projects and things like that. I always say yes and I almost always regret it because it ends up resulting in me doing 10 times more work or whatever the case may be because I just said yes and I said I'd take care of something. Same thing with work. I tend to be the person who's like, oh, this needs to get done. Oh, I'll do it. It's fine. And, I do it and I probably do it well because I would never like submit something to a boss if I didn't think I had done it well. But I I think that there's part of saying yes all the time that like can be a hit to like our inner peace. And I struggle to say no because I don't want to let people down, but I've realized that we can't wear all the hats. We can't do everything in life. Even if you think you can do something better than someone or whatever the case, like sometimes it's okay to just delegate tasks and to give someone else the responsibility to do something, especially when it's not your responsibility in the first place. Which again, I find myself in that situation a lot, is doing things that really aren't my responsibility or like shouldn't be my job, but I make them my job. Um, but yeah, I tend to just be the type of person that says yes to everything, and it has offered me a lot of wonderful experiences in life, but it also means that sometimes I take on more than I should be handling. Um, I do want to say though, again, I don't think it's always a negative thing. I'm thinking of just because I just had Brooke on my mind. There's like nothing to do in Brooke and I's hometown. There's really not. I've learned to love and appreciate my hometown now that I've moved away from it, and I think there is more to do than I thought at the time. But when you live there and you're like an angsty high schooler, there's nothing to do. And so this sounds so stupid saying it out loud, but there's this place called the Plaza, which is literally a plaza of just a bunch of, there's a grocery store, there's a Chipotle, there's a Staples, there's a gym, Panera, there's just like a bunch of random businesses, and it's right off the highway. And we used to go there, like, probably, like, 4 or 5 nights a week, I'm not joking, and it's the perfect, like, midway point between our house, and we'd drive, we would park, I would get out of my car, I'd go sit in Brooke's car, and we'd just sit and talk. We wouldn't drive any, well, sometimes we drove, but usually we would just sit there and talk and, like, do literally nothing but talk and listen to music or whatever. Sometimes we'd run in, like, one of the stores and grab food or go pee or whatever, but, like, there was no activity happening. And I remember our senior year and then our freshman year of college. I wait, not our senior year, was it? I don't even remember when I started that job, but definitely my our freshman year of college, that summer when we went home between freshman and sophomore year of college. I was working at a place that was far from home. It was like 50 minutes from my house, no, 40 minutes from my house, and like an hour from the plaza. And Brooke used to like track me and wait for me to get out of work. And the second I got out of work and like got on the road, she'd call me and she'd be like, okay, meet you at the plaza in an hour. And I always said yes. Like I literally never said no. I was like, even if it could only be for like an hour, I was like, yes, I'm going, because those it was just so fun. And looking back, me being like a yes man then has paid off because I love thinking about those memories, and it was so stupid that that was like our idea of fun, but it truly was, and we had like the best conversations, and we have the best stories about it now. But I feel like that's a great example of how I'm just like a yes man. Like I would work until like 9 p.m. at night, and most people I feel like would be like, no, I'm going home. I need to eat. I need to shower. I need to go to bed. And I'd be like, you know what? Yes, I am going to go, and I can eat and shower and go to bed after. But again, another testament to the fact that I don't need a lot of sleep. But yeah, I feel like being a yes man can be a great thing because it means that you're open to a lot of experiences, and that's something I do love about myself. But there needs to be a balance of saying yes and protecting your own peace and being able to say no at times, especially when it comes to adding like responsibilities or tasks to your schedule. Um, but yeah, most likely to say yes. This is one that I definitely think I could win. And then ending on a very lighthearted note, number 10, most likely to be drinking an energy drink. This one is an obvious one. Um, I used to never drink any type of caffeine, and for reference, I hate coffee. I hate the smell of it, which I is crazy. I know people, even people who don't like to drink coffee, I feel like the smell of it. I can't stand the smell of it. So I definitely can't drink it. I've had one sip of coffee my entire life. It was an iced coffee. It was my mom's. I think she gets caramel in it, and that's pretty much it. And I took a sip of it and I was like, this is disgusting. If I never have to taste this again in my life, I will be grateful. Um, but you know that thing, like, you know how, like, your sinuses and whatever are connected, and so, like, if you don't like the smell of something, usually you don't like the taste of it, usually. I feel like that's part of it, is, like, when I put it up to my mouth, I am smelling it, and I hate that sensory stimulation so much that then when it hits my taste buds, I hate that too. But, yeah, I just hate coffee, and so I was like not sleeping a lot in high school and but like had a lot on my plate. Like I would go to school and then I'd go to softball practice and then I'd whatever, like do homework, on and on. But I would need to get through the day without coffee. And since I didn't like coffee, I was not drinking any caffeine. And then I think when I met my boyfriend, it was like end of sophomore year or like middle sophomore year, but that was like COVID, so it doesn't really count. So like junior year, he drank a lot of caffeine in the form of energy drinks because he also doesn't like coffee, and that was when I got introduced. Junior year was like okay, that was only once in a while that I was drinking energy drinks. It started off as Bangs, if you guys know what those are. I feel like they used to be really popular and now they're not so much, but um yeah, it started out as Bangs, and it was just, like, every once in a while, it wasn't bad at all. Then senior year rolled around, and oh my god, because I was sleeping so little, this is when I had that math class with Brooke and that math teacher who locked me in his room, um, but, yeah, I it was, like, 400 milligrams caffeine daily, just because I liked the taste of it, not even necessarily because I needed it, but yeah, it was bad, and then freshman year of college, I got off of it, and I wasn't drinking really any caffeine. Once in a while, I would have an energy drink, and once in a while, I'd have like tea or whatever, but I really wasn't drinking it a lot. Um, and then the summer came, and I picked right back up, and yeah, this past school year, it's been the same thing. I drink like one a day, so it's better, I guess. I tell myself that it's okay because I don't drink coffee, but at the same time, one energy drink is like 200 milligrams caffeine. A coffee is like 80, 90. So definitely not the same thing, although most people drink more than one cup of coffee anyway. So I guess it is similar. But yeah, go to energy drink now is Celsius, specifically the powdered ones. Powdered ones because A, they're cheaper, and B, I can drink them faster. But yeah, the powdered Celsius, my favorite flavor is berry, but I like most of their flavors. But I also tried this week the Alani New. No, that's not it. Is it Alani New? No, no, not Alani New. Although I do like Alani News. It's Amino Lean. It's the Alex Earl collaboration. Um, and it's pretty good too. So I'm finishing up like that pack now, but go to is definitely the berry Celsius packets. But yeah, you catch me like anywhere, and I probably have caffeine on me or an energy drink on me. Especially like going into work, I would always have one. Or if like I have an 8 a.m., which I almost always do, pretty much always bring one with me. Um, yeah, we all have bad habits, and if my worst habit in life is drinking an energy drink a day, so be it. I'll take it. There's a lot worse things I could be consuming, so I'll deal with it. But yeah. Okay. Well, that was so much fun. Those were my top superlatives. Some of these again were ones that other people like nominated for me, like friends or whatever. Some of them I chose on my own. But yeah, I think they're just silly. And like I said, some of them, like the more serious ones, I think it could be a good way to like work on your own confidence and recognize your own strength. So if you're someone who's struggling on a longer confidence journey right now, I encourage you to do this. Whether it's like self-driven or again you reach out to friends, I think it could be a good way to like intentionally think about the things that you're good at and the things that other people value in you. So, yeah. But I hope you all have a great week. If you're in Florida and facing this hurricane, honestly, I heard that there's like storms all up the East Coast. So stay safe. Hope you're all doing well, enjoying our last few weeks of summer if you're a student. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope to see you guys next time. And another shout out to Subconscious Medicine on Instagram. I've been trying to be more active on there, put some more resources and links and stuff of things that I like and things that I'm using and whatever. So, yeah, I want to continue to grow our little family, and I appreciate every one of you. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.